Welcome back to the Birthing Bessie blog, where we talk about real topics pertaining to birth, motherhood, pregnancy, parenting, partnerships, and just real life. Here on the blog, we don't shy away from talking about the hardships of motherhood. Instead, we welcome you, hear you, embrace you with open arms. So I want to start today's blog with just a little trigger warning. If you've followed me on social media or if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you have seen that I've shared recently about our unexpected loss in our pregnancy. So a lot of what I'm feeling called to share right now is just my experience through that. And while this post won't necessarily talk in depth about the loss specifically, I do want to provide that trigger warning and just knowing that everyone is in different places in their mental health and their healing journey. So if this is something that you feel like is really going to affect you, please feel free to come back another time. With this specific blog post, I don't plan to get too in the weeds with the nitty-gritty details of my experience. I really want to share three main and major silver linings that I have found in my healing process so far. So please know that if you are listening and concerned about feeling triggered, or if you decide to continue to listen at any point you feel triggered, please respect yourself. Do what you need to do to feel good and come back and visit the blog another time. But I do really want to share a couple things that have come to light in kind of this healing and reflective process. Now, I'm only a couple weeks out from kind of the start of this process, learning our news, having the procedure, and starting on a physical, mental, and spiritual healing journey. And so with that, I think that when we go through any type of trauma or something that really is life-altering for us, our brains want to make sense of things. And it isn't always easy to do that. And so in my searching and my reflecting, I haven't necessarily been able to make sense of things. We have gotten some answers, which has been really helpful in healing. But what I have really clung to is finding the silver linings and those positive things to really hold on to in this time that's really challenging for me. So I wanted to share what some of those major themes and silver linings are in just the few weeks that I've been able to learn about this news and start processing it. So first and foremost, this is going to start as a negative. We'll change it to a positive, so bear with me. But in my experience with having my procedure and physically healing from that procedure, I have been so disappointed and so frustrated with the lack of support and information I have been given to heal, to physically heal my body. So for me personally, with this pregnancy, I had decided to establish care with midwives, hospital-based midwives. So in order to have my procedure done, I had to have my care transferred for that procedure to an OB. One that I've worked with before is a doula. Certainly don't know her well, and she was fine. But they're not my primary care providers that I've seen throughout pregnancy and that I have a relationship with. And in that communication, and in this whole process, really, and this is not to place blame on the care that I received from the people who I am receiving it from. For all I know, this could be standard across the board, and being a doula and very involved in women's health, my guess is that it is. So I am just flabbergasted at the lack of information that is given. One, prior to the procedure, for me, the prep of the procedure, and especially the healing process of the procedure. Now, again, because I'm in birth work, I know that there's a lot of gray area when it comes to women's health. And I should say when it comes to women's health in the perinatal space. So I always joke with my clients that some of my job feels a little bit like a cop out. I feel like a weatherman where it's like, maybe it'll rain, maybe it won't. A client could ask me a question about a specific scenario or a question about like how things may go. And I could give them 5 different scenarios with 5 different outcomes. And it really is a gray area of this work and why it's such a benefit to, shameless plug, have a doula who can walk you through those things, especially in the moment. So for me with this procedure, I expect that that is similar, that there is gray area where everybody's body is different, everybody's body responds to things differently. There may not be a blanket recovery plan for this type of procedure, but the information that is given or that I was given was so minimal. And it left me asking a lot of questions, and it left me feeling very anxious. As again, someone who is in this perinatal space quite frequently, I'm very aware of the flaws that the system has. And I didn't have a doula for this purpose of filling these gaps. So I was left to really bug my care team quite a bit, and happy to do that, but really frustrating. And again, I know that there's gray area with this. I didn't have a whole lot of the big warning signs, but I just wanted some reasoning behind why I was feeling the way I was feeling. What's the purpose behind it? Just again, to try to help my brain make sense of it. And I got I was met with answers like, well, you don't have a fever, you're not bleeding excess amount, you're not passing huge clots. It's fine. And that is not enough. To me, that's not enough. I think women who are experiencing this and already going through such turmoil with the healing process of the mental and the spiritual aspect of this, we need better care. And that can go across the perinatal space. And I know there's, again, so many flaws with the medical system. We deserve better care. And so that's my little soapbox, but now the silver lining is that I plan to provide that better care. I don't know what that looks like, how that looks like yet, but you better believe that I'm going to find a way to, at very least, support, provide information to ease women's minds who are going through this. I'm ready to fill those gaps. And again, we'll find a way to do that because it's a little absurd, the dismissiveness that I experienced. And even I had the wherewithal and the information or the education and knowledge to know to ask specific questions. So I can't imagine for women who don't have that baseline education to where they even know what to ask, or if there are red flags beyond just like the 3 bullet points given on your discharge paper. So silver lining there is that I will find a way to make this process slightly less painful in an informational way. Another silver lining that kind of goes along with providing support in the perinatal space is that, of course, when I first learned and found out the news about our baby, a big question mark for me was, how do I go back to work? How do I go back to being so involved in the birth space? And when will I feel ready for that? And what does my entire business now look like? And so the silver lining for me, I think, is that because I'm so in this space, I'm less triggered by it. I always see people who are sharing information about their own pregnancy, educational information about pregnancy. I open up any of my social media apps. And there's just always pregnancy, motherhood, postpartum. It's always right there in my face. And I think because of that, it feels less connected to my own experience. So for me, being in this line of work and being so exposed to that constantly, um, it just feels like I have a higher tolerance maybe for it. I just am not bothered or triggered by it. Now, I'm sure again, I'm very early on in this healing process. So who knows what triggers will come up for me at any point at any time in this healing process. But it is really a silver lining for me that I am not completely shaken. Being around pregnant women when teaching childbirth education, like I did 1 week post-op, or just talking and seeing and connecting with people who are reaching out for services, or I'm just so in this space that it is not as triggering to me. And that is a huge silver lining that I do feel like I'm going to be able to continue to do this work and not really miss too much of a beat. And while, yes, I'm very much taking care of myself still and navigating how I want to step back into birth spaces, it doesn't feel as daunting as I thought it would. And that is a huge silver lining for me. And finally, another silver lining that I have kind of started to process through is really strengthening my faith. So for me personally, I don't consider myself necessarily religious, but I do consider myself spiritual. And so for me, what that means is that I believe in God, but I believe in God as a personal relationship to myself. Over the past many years, my relationship with religion and spirituality and even with God has ebbed and flowed and changed a lot. But I did a lot of praying around finding some specific answers, and I do think that those were answered for me. Those prayers were answered. So I do have a renewed relationship with faith, or a renewed motivation around exploring what faith means to me and my own relationship with God, and really being more intentional about spending time in prayer and in meditation and things that I had really put to the. And so while I have these kind of three major themes or just pieces that feel like really big silver linings to me right now, I also know and expect to, one, find more, but also really sort through a lot of other stuff as I move forward and start healing in more of a mental and spiritual way. So these have been really good reminders of the blessings that I know that I do have. And I know there's a million other things that I have so much gratitude for, but these are three kind of themes that I feel are big silver linings for me right now that I am kind of holding on to and clinging on to. So just sharing part of my healing journey, and I'm sure I will continue to share what feels right for me. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And know that if you are in a similar situation, I am here, even though I certainly wouldn't say that I am an expert in this area. I have lived experience in it, and I do consider myself an expert in supporting women in this whole family planning experience. So just know that if you need a listening ear or resources or just a vent, I'm here. I'm here always, no matter where you're at in your family planning journey. And if you have had a similar experience to me, to this, I'd love for you to share what you have found to be most healing, so we can help heal each other and really lean on this community that we have in this unique experience. So if you'd love to share, please feel free to send me an email at ebbirthing@gmail.com, or come on over to Instagram, where I'll be sharing some of this and more. I'd love to see you there. And until next time.